Ladies and gents, welcome to Week 5 inplayLIVE podcast and YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us.
Keep going.
Today we are going to talk about the annual calendar or a year in the life of a sports value analyst. Specifically, probably a bit more about Andrew's journey as he's been around the horn a few times. Before we get into it, just a reminder, check out the Facebook group, Instagram, website, inplayLIVE, join, subscribe, click the bell on YouTube, and remember afterwards to click the link below, Ritzker Podcast, and join us in the community.
Yeah, so if you hit the checkout page, you can enter in Ritzker Podcast at inplaylive.com for 40% off. The link below directly to the checkout page is available for you there.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, before we get into today's topic, which is a good one because I think we're taking a bit of a break today. It's like just a huge sigh as we expelled MLB now. It's just football for a few weeks.
We have a huge slate of games on tonight. Not.
Yeah.
We have never, it's crazy actually when you think about it. It kind of leads to today's topic, right?
Yeah.
So I think when it's what's going on at inplayLIVE this week, MLB's done. So congrats Dodgers fans. Congrats to the LA Dodgers. First win since 1988, which is super cool. My God, were they incredible.
They were awesome. Mookie Betts is it's hard to justify spending $300 million, but holy shit, that guy was just insane.
The Dodgers have been spending that money since the dawn of time, right? They're always the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, right? Look at the Phillies.
But
who do you want? Who do you want, Bryce Harper or Mookie Betts?
Yeah,
right?
He cashed big time. So that's sick. And Kershaw, been watching that guy for years and years. So that was fun to see him lift and just the relief on the man's face. He's like, fuck, finally got it done.
Yeah.
Especially because he had a bit of a hard run for the last few years, just like disappointment or a bad start or just not coming together.
And he was incredible in the World Series final. He was absolute vintage Clayton Kershaw. Vintage regular season Clayton Kershaw.
So that was sick. But for the next, I guess, till NHL and NBA get their stuff together, which they're talking probably late November, December, maybe even for a slated start, we're just football. So
you know what? There might be MLS on tonight. I don't know. At inplayLIVE, obviously there was Champions League today, and there's been Champions League the last couple weeks. We have a dedicated group of members who are extremely committed to European football or soccer. I rode their coattails today. I won a nice bet that I don't know if it was a value wager or not, but I just rode their coattails, right? They've followed our philosophy. They've applied it to soccer or European football, and I haven't taken the time to do that personally. I'm a huge North American sports guy.
Yeah.
Right? You love soccer.
I do, yeah.
I really, to be completely honest, this is a bit of I'm going to just go for it. When Dazen took over Champions League, my hate for Dazen is so high.
No. Yeah.
If you guys rewind the tape to 2017 when the NFL Sunday Ticket moved exclusively to Dazen, I was one of the people at the forefront.
Speaking with management.
On Twitter, and Dazen has actually come out and said we cannot offer NFL exclusively in Canada on Dazen because they specifically said this. There is a small group of people, but they are a very vocal and loyal group of people. So when Dazen took over the NFL Sunday Ticket, I basically said, I'm done. I'm boycotting you guys. I hate you guys with a passion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to anyone that they have a bad product. It's just when it comes to sports betting and when it comes to live sports betting, latency is a huge, huge concern, and they have latency issues, right? You need to be as live as cable TV to offer packages that are truly valuable to people. We don't want to see on our fantasy app that Melvin Gordon scored a touchdown for your team before you've watched the play. As one thing, and then sports betting obviously is a whole other side of things. So anyways, with all that said, once Dazen took over Champions League, I've stopped following it.
Yeah, and I think soccer is a whole different animal. I think that in the sports betting world, it's massive. Obviously, you could probably put it top 2, top 3 as far as units money wagered in the world?
I'd say number 1.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
Maybe cricket. I don't know anything about that. But like, yeah, soccer there's games going on 24 hours a day all around the globe, and 10 different leagues in every single country, and
which is awesome, right?
Which is awesome, yeah. But a whole nother
So we're super happy to uncover those strategies. So we're working with our community on them. Shout out to Chris. But yeah, we're working with our community on them and really looking forward to it. But with all that said, I think what we're really getting at here is that we're in a really unique situation where right now we would have the NBA and the NHL on. COVID has been crazy with sports. It's changed the rules in baseball, changed the number of games played in the NBA and the MLB. Obviously, the no fans thing.
The playoff formats.
Playoff formats in the NHL were completely different this year, and the time commitment that you put into sports has completely changed, right? So we know right now that the NHL and the NBA would be a huge focus of ours, but it's not on. It just ended, and they're talking about December 22nd for the NBA and January 1st for the NHL.
And I think that, like, from what the narrative is, the goal is to get back to regularity, quote unquote, as soon as they can, as far as scheduling and games slated, to try and get back in line with their TV rights and all that stuff, right? Because they got to make their money.
Well, the NBA had record low views. Yeah. And when the Lakers are in the final, that usually warrants massive
huge
views.
Money.
And there's a whole other side to that equation, which we're definitely not going to get into. But really what it comes down to is you don't want the NBA competing with Sunday Night Football. Yeah. Sunday Night Football was on, and not a lot of people have this living room, right? So that one game had the lowest views of any NBA final in history. That one game that was competing with Sunday Night Football, right? Crazy. So the timing of when sports is on is all for a reason. Yeah. Like, for me, I don't watch the first half of the baseball season because I make more money on other sports. And then when nothing else is on, I love baseball because it's like the only thing that's on, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are we talking about?
So we're talking about a year in the life, and I guess, like, let's say your year is a fiscal year because football is your favorite, right? So fiscal year, September, football starts to get going. Yeah. And it's full-time football. What's like a basic week for you inside of football season? How much time, energy, devotion, where and when are you really allocating that time? What does that look like?
Well, I think for any professional sports bettor, sports value analyst as we call them at inplayLIVE, that you have a hierarchy of sports, right? Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm not finding value on other sports when American football's on. Yeah. We bet baseball like crazy in the World Series and in the playoffs. We were betting hockey and NBA when it was on crazy. So typical week really just revolves around the NFL and the NCAA, right? So Saturday and Sunday are the most intense, most demanding days, which are weekends, which is when most people spend a lot of their free time. Yeah. So for me, I flipped that on its head, right? Played basketball today with you during the day, during the week, right? Yeah. And a lot of people have that luxury right now because they're working from home. But in a very typical world with no pandemic or anything crazy going on, I'm the guy that says, can't talk to you Saturday. Don't call me, don't text me. Definitely don't make plans with me. Right? Yeah. Definitely don't make plans with me because I'm all in on Saturday. I'm all in on Sunday. And then, Monday night for the NFL, Thursday night for the NFL, midweek NCAA games tend to be not a huge focus of mine. But just as a whole, I have all this free time in theory during the week and no free time, potentially at nights and on weekends, right?
Right, but that is also, it does change throughout the year as football, because football is a jam-packed season, September to December, but then it's not like hockey or basketball where you have these 2-month playoffs. It drops off a cliff, right? You get 1 and 2 games for January and some in February, so and that's maybe 10, 15 kind of games in the playoffs, so it is intense, but I think that the key there is, like, you talk about in the course and on your webinar and the videos and things like that in the Facebook community about how important it is to be in or out and allocating your time if you're going to do it.
Right.
And whether you're doing it full time, earning a living, or maybe in my case, like right now, I have a full-time job and I'm doing this on the side a little bit just to generate some passive income. Or, you know, say you're just somebody who wants to turn $100 into $1,000 over the course of an NFL season, right? And say, take a trip after, whatever, right?
Yep.
If you want to see the results, you do have to dedicate a certain amount of time, and it cannot be in and out, dipping your toes in the water. It has to be like, hey, I'm putting in a session for this amount of time. Or like, you know, if you were doing a part-time job or at a side gig, you wouldn't just be like, have a browser open and then be making money, just like money just flowing in or whatever, right? You have to dedicate your attention and your energy to that activity in order to generate income. So I think that it'd be a good thing, like, to even just readdress from your perspective the importance to people of like picking and allocating those the energy and time slots that they're going to use to try and generate money from this activity.
Yeah, you're not going to be successful jumping in and out of a day, jumping in and out of a league. You're just not. Any league.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're an expert at NHL hockey, you have to know a lot about that league. You don't necessarily need to know exact details of the personnel. I think MLB is probably the biggest one for that.
Specific to the player.
You need specific data, specific information in the MLB. But more so what's important, I think, are teams' motivations, right? And you don't just, if you're like, oh, the Dallas Stars, they always do this in this circumstance, or they tend to do this in this circumstance. There's validity to it, but what about next season when a new player comes in that changes the motivation in the locker room? A new coach comes in, maybe not even a head coach, that changes the way they attack a certain situation. That's the kind of stuff that you need to really be dialed into. So, like, if you half-ass it, you know, you're like, oh, I'd love to make some money on NCAA on Saturdays. I'm going to check out the games tonight. Maybe you'll win money, right? But I find that it takes a full commitment, an all-in kind of thing. And I think that's a metaphor for life in general. Like, there are so many people that, like, you know, they jump in a pyramid scheme and they do it on the side. Or they get a second job and they do it on the side. Or they keep their day job and they start a business on the side. And I'm not saying you won't be successful, but more often than not, you kind of have to hit that tipping point where you go all in if you're going to succeed at anything in life. Right? So I think from a time commitment standpoint with me, when I made the decision to kind of go all in, like I said, one of the biggest jabs I get from our ads and people on the outside, guy must be single, right? When they see the screens, number one. Number two, like, what a loser spending all his time, you know, doing that kind of thing, whatever, to each their own. But number three is I must, like, the other one is if I'm not single, she must be really, really special kind of thing to allow. And she is. So I'm not saying that, but it's a communication thing when it comes to your significant other, your family, everyone, where you tell them what you're trying to achieve, why you're trying to achieve it, the time that it's going to take up, but also the balance that it creates, right? So, like, I've been able to take my entire family to Hawaii and surprise them on a epic vacation as a Christmas gift. I literally do take months worth of vacation. It's just I put in so much time during football season to allow for that other times of the year. And I've sat down with, you know, my partner's parents and literally said, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is what I'm trying to do. I won't be able to attend family events at these times from these months. And transparency and communication with anything, I think, are so freaking important. So you put that out there, and if they don't accept you for who you are, that's a whole different discussion, but at least you communicated it. If you are the guy who on Saturdays didn't communicate it up front, didn't request the time, didn't let people know what you were trying to accomplish, you know, list keeps going on and on, then all of a sudden Saturday rolls around and you're getting phone calls and texts and you know, the wife or husband's pissed off at you because you're not spending time when you should be. You know, the list goes on and on and on. You've completely set yourself up to fail, right? Whereas no one would question you going to work your day job at a construction site from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 days a week, 50 hours, destroying your body, no one would question it. You're going to work.
Or even for that matter, just being like, hey, I'm working overtime on a Saturday. And it's like, I'm doing a job on a Saturday, I'm going to make some extra cash, and I'm going to use that cash to XYZ.
And the wife or husband says, oh, great, we have this extra money because Jane or Timmy worked extra hours on Saturday. And it's like, great. So I was upfront about it. Caitlin benefits tremendously from it, but at the same time, it's a sacrifice for her as well.
Yeah.
Right? She knows that on Saturdays she's with other people, other friends, whatever. She knows that I'm not even a part of her life on that day. Like it's like you can't. It's hard to have. You wouldn't be able to really have a conversation with me because I'm so focused on what I'm doing. Right. So and the flip side of that, right, is when football season's over, the free time that her and I both have, the financial freedom that her and I both have, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, even if it's turning $100 into $1,000 for the season, maybe you go take a trip, right? Yeah. In our case, it's like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
What do you want? Do you want to look at real estate? Do you want to look at a trip? Do you want to this, that, and the other, right? That's all possible from this industry. Right.
Yeah, and I think that's 100% it. But most importantly, that communication and treating it like you're doing work. Because if you're not putting in the hours and you're not putting in the wagers and experiencing the volume and seeing out the probability and working the system as it's designed to work, then you're not going to benefit from it. You can't just cherry pick.
Right.
No one can. You can't cherry pick anything in life.
Yeah.
And especially not something that's as high risk and challenging and demanding as analyzing sports games and wagering on it.
Yeah, well, when you I love to compare things to the stock market. So when you look at the returns in 1 year, they say that there's 10 days that define the entire year's return. Mm-hmm. So if you're picking and choosing, how do you know of the 365 days? I know that obviously I think 104 of them are weekends plus holidays. So of the 200, let's just say 250 days, how do you know which 10 of them are those 10 that you needed to be a part of? Right? You miss those 10. Yeah. You're screwed.
Variance is such a huge part of this. Right?
So if there's 50 college games on Saturday, what if only 2 or 5 of them are the ones that are paying for the rest of my month or the rest of my year?
Yeah.
How do I know what games they're going to be before they happen? I don't. I bet live. I bet based on what I'm seeing, right? So, and the value, of course. So you have to, you can't jump in and out like that. It's just not going to work.
Yeah. Interesting. So then graduating from football, obviously February onward, no football. We go into more hockey, basketball. I guess baseball starts in kind of March, April, but hockey and basketball are big for you, big for inplayLIVE, like being focused on North American sports.
Yeah.
What are you focused in on? What does your routine look like then? Because hockey and basketball are a bit of a different animal because they're on every night, but it's not quite the same as involvement level as NFL, right? It's a little bit more passive.
we have blueprints on what I do for each of those sports. So once the NHL starts, let's just pretend it's January 1st, a couple days before then, our NHL blueprint is available again to our members, but it's updated for the season. Yeah. There was course curriculum that we put out for the 2019-2020 season that is already, I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but it's already changed because of the game changing. Look at the NFL this year. There's more points than ever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right? So what you do changes over time. And when fans are back next year, maybe things will revert back to the way they were before. We don't know. Mm-hmm. So we're always releasing new content and information. But I mean, typically the NHL and the NBA start in October. So we're getting once football's over, we're actually in the final hunt to playoffs. So I'm following the NHL and the NBA all throughout the football season as well, which is one of the reasons that makes that time of year so demanding for me, and one of the reasons that allows for so much freedom once that stuff's over. Especially once you get into playoffs. We make so much money on the NHL and NBA playoffs. Like, we do so well in those areas. But like you said, with football dropping off a cliff, by the time we hit May and June, there's very few games on in that regard, and that's when, by the end of June rolls around, for me, I just tend to take 2-3 months off of this stuff altogether.
And just,
like I do I bet on baseball? Absolutely. Do I follow baseball? 100%. Does it require the demanding nature of football? Not necessarily. For me, just because for your own sanity as well, you do want to, like you said about soccer, there's always a game on, right? So if you're doing this stuff for soccer, it could consume you to the point that you're not even a human being.
You just turn into a computer,
right?
really.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you start adding in World Cup, Euros, summer tournaments, things like that. The UEFA Nations League now, it's never ending. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's actually a good takeaway too. Is you're gonna come into this. A lot of people join the inplayLIVE community and they share kind of like a little bit about their history or what they like to do. But to know what sports you're really good at, piggyback off of the expertise of you and what we're working on here, but then kind of like apply your time most efficiently, right? And say like pick your nights or your days that you're gonna work on this, go at it full time, and then the other days shut off, and don't be constantly like dragging yourself into things or chasing and becoming the serial value investor where you kind of lose because then it starts to saturate itself, right?
I'm not gonna lie, I woke up this morning with a huge smile on my face. Like, I love sports. I live and breathe it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's so demanding and you go, oh my God, there's nothing on today, it's just kind of nice. It's like, like I said, go play basketball, go for dinner, all that kind of stuff. Enjoy yourself and don't be so consumed by all of this all the time. You have to. It's the same with anything, right? Like, you have to have balance. You have to unplug. Mm-hmm. For some people, that's a daily cycle. For other people, it's weekly. And with this, for me, it tends to more so be
quarterly.
I guess
you'd say,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. But quarterly. You have to go into it with the mindset like, hey, this is like a camp. This is like, I'm working this. This fall is when I work, right? It's just like any other seasonal business.
Yeah. And I think too, though, this is not the be all end all in how it is, right? There are people that do remarkable with tennis betting. Obviously people that do well with soccer. With inplayLIVE, one of the things that's so unbelievably cool is our community is creating value and finding value. I don't want to say in areas that I never thought of, but in areas that I didn't care to ever look. Mm-hmm. We've got I think I touched on this, but esports, cycling is becoming a huge value source from some people that are into it. Obviously soccer, esports, basically areas that I was never looking. And then from a cyclical standpoint or an annual standpoint, you look at it and you go, that's awesome because there's always going to be opportunities there.
Yeah.
You don't need to rely on one sports book. You don't need to rely on one sport, one league, et cetera, because there's just always other opportunities out there. These philosophies are universal, right?
Yeah. I think time management should be associated with your goals too. Like, having a clear set goal of like, hey, what am I doing with this? Like, am I doing this to make a passive income? Am I doing this to make my income? Am I doing this to save or just have some extra cash? And then working backwards from that.
Yeah, right? and there's so much to what you just said that is so valid, because if you look at a guy that goes, okay, I have $400 that I am 100% comfortable with losing. If I lose it all, I'm going to put this behind me and I'm going to go on with my life the way it was. But I want to give this a shot. Is he expecting that $400 to provide a primary income? Sorry, he or she, a primary income? It's like, maybe that's not realistic. Whereas we had a member join 10 days ago, and 2 days ago he sent me an email saying that he made $60,000 in 8 days using our philosophies, betting strictly on NCAA and NFL. And that's more money than I don't want to say ever made, but that's as much money as I've ever made in that short period of time.
Yeah, that's fast.
So that's probably a wealthy individual that had, maybe $10,000, $20,000 kicking around that they applied our principles to and just freaking hit the ground running and knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Is he going to keep making $60,000 in 10 days every 10 days? I doubt it.
Cheer for him.
I doubt it, right? But that's not really the point. The point is that what you put into it from a resource standpoint, but also your time is what's going to yield those results.
You have to pair that with the money management side, but the energy is a big part of it. Well, COVID we touched on a little bit. I think that from a sports betting standpoint, it's actually been a bit of a blessing, honestly. Like, it gave us sports have continued on, and they're a foundation of I guess society's lifeline, right? Almost like the government, these major organizations were just like, we need to get sports back.
Yeah.
Which has been great for us because it gives us A, sports to watch, but B, things to wager on.
Yeah.
And a way of making money. I think that looking forward for next year, we're probably going to be in a pretty good spot. It seems like they've kind of worked out the kinks in a lot of these different systems, and we're going to be full system go. So the way things are looking, I think we're going to be like 2021 might be a little bit offset, but going forward, I don't see why we wouldn't have kind of a regular sports
back
schedule,
to normal.
Right? Yeah.
Maybe not with the fans and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but who the hell knows?
As far as when and where the games are happening, right? Like,
yeah, back to normal. But on that same note, I did touch on this. I think being a sports value analyst and quote-unquote investing in sports, having your finger on the pulse is so important, and COVID has changed sports, right? And I've gotten a lot of messages from the outside of people being like, I'd love to join, but COVID's ruined sports. It's too hard to make money on it now. Things like that I've gotten messages of. And I'm like, well, great. You could not be more wrong. But has it affected the way we have wagered? 100%. There isn't even a doubt or question in my mind that not having fans and the way everything has happened,
the travel differences and the bubbles and the
100%, it has completely changed the way we've bet on sports. But that's not just COVID. Look at what analytics has done for sports. Look at Watch Moneyball and look at once that Oakland Athletics Billy Bean system came out, every team in the MLB picked it up, right? That completely changed the game.
Yeah.
Right? The analytics in the NHL have completely changed the game. So we are constantly changing what we're doing.
I think that's like
modifying how we're doing it.
Yeah, the preset mindset is that everything's always changing. Don't assume that anything will ever be the same.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you would do a good job of communicating that to the community and saying, attack each game brand new. Yeah. I don't care what rank you are. I don't care what happened last year's matchup. I don't care what your historic record is. I don't care where your fans are, what day you flew in on, who your quarterback is, all that stuff. Forget it. Watch the game.
One of our members checked me at the door in a big way this season when I was on the live stream, and he said, "Hey, are we betting Alabama?" And it was one of our core strategies. I said, "Are we betting Alabama?" And I was like,
not betting against.
I don't know if I can do it. And then he said to me, if you had never watched a game before and you were watching this one, what would you do? And I was like, dude, thank you. Because that's what I preach.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you. And we just freaking printed money for the rest of that game.
Yeah.
Because, and I remember one of my very first seasons of being like a really hardcore sports bettor, one of the reasons why I did so well is because there was preconceived perceptions of NFL teams that I didn't know about. I just didn't know about them. I just came in and went, this team's better than this team. I've watched them.
Yeah.
Whereas all of the public, it's, whether it's the Patriots, the Steelers, whoever, the Ravens, whoever it is, where they go, this team is incredible. They're going to turn it around. This team sucks. They always suck. Whereas I came in and I went, that team's actually good, right? So the bias, right? Dropping that bias to all of your favorite players, all of your favorite teams, is so important. But yeah, back to kind of what more you were talking about, COVID or no COVID, when we look at the cyclical nature of sports, and one of the beauties of inplayLIVE and your subscription is that we're always making sure that our new strategies are available to our members.
Yeah.
And they're on the forefront. So sometimes people will be like, oh, what are you guys talking about in our community? Because there isn't a video about it yet in our masterclass.
Yeah.
And it's because we're capitalizing on a current change that we've just found, and we're all discussing it in our community. We're all executing on it. We're all hopefully making money, but we didn't know about it at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Some motivation, analytics, something has changed in the game that's allowing us to capitalize on this right now.
Yeah.
Will we be able to next season? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so it's a fluid landscape, and I think that tying that back to time management, it's just like kind of deciding when and when not to allocate your time to those certain games, like when we talk about those favorites and talking about different games and different things that are going on. But just saying like, hey, we're going to call it on this game, we're going to move on to the next game, and kind of knowing when to hold them, when to fold them kind of thing is big, especially when it comes to when you're putting in a 13-hour shift on a Saturday or a 13-hour shift on a Sunday, deciding to kick the tires for 5 hours on a doubleheader on a Monday if the games are crap and they're not working out. Like, don't chase that sort of stuff, and understanding to value your time as well and not always be hunting.
And I think that's one of the beauties of just loving sports.
Yeah.
I think you or I, we could put on a game and just enjoy the game. Right?
Good old Army Navy classic.
Yeah, but like I had no run yesterday in the opening inning of the Dodgers-Rays game, and the Rays the Rays superstar, the rookie.
Oh, yeah.
Why can't I think of his name now?
Whatever, like
yeah,
crazy
superstar.
Name. Yeah,
and he hits a bomb to deep right, and I just said, what a star. Like,
yeah.
I don't even care that I lost the wager. I'd make the wager again, but it's like, what a star, right? That's just the love of sports prevailing over everything, and then when you find your money-making opportunities, you go, okay, this is a good time to strike.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why this is not for someone that doesn't love sports, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless you are literally able to turn your brain off and just stare at numbers all day, which not many people can.
Some people can, right? But yeah. Anyway, so moving on, I think it's really cool. We launched our affiliate program at inplayLIVE. So whether you're on the inside or not, and you're interested in marketing our product and joining in sharing our revenue with us on the sales that you bring to us, that's now available to us. We'll post a link to our affiliate program inside of the description for this video. But what's really cool is that we're a startup at inplayLIVE. It's been 3 fast and amazing months. We've almost reached 300 members in that time, and we have a really loyal, energetic, and really committed community. Like, our community is committed to helping each other and to success. So
strong core.
Yeah.
Really good core.
Yeah, really amazing core. So with all of that, I think that there are a lot of people on the outside with how new we are. They're looking for reviews of our product. So if you guys are interested in becoming an affiliate, you can literally just make a quick YouTube video explaining your personal story with inplayLIVE. Whether that's successes, failures, struggles, whatever, people are looking for that kind of stuff. And if you link your affiliate information to the page, then there's a great opportunity for you to join and actually start earning revenue with our company. So super excited about that. We're doing a whole bunch of really fun things inside of inplayLIVE. We have a daily fantasy league that's included with your membership, where you're competing for $1,000 US. We have weekly trivia starting now when I'm live streaming on Thursday Night Football. At halftime, we're going to be doing a trivia for some wicked prizes and just some really fun sports trivia inside of inplayLIVE that's, of course, included with your membership. And we're releasing weekly picks on the UFC. We're going to have some massive picks for the Masters.
Yes.
The Masters, which is going to be super fun. And then, of course, live streaming with me Saturdays, and for NFL primetime games on Monday and Thursday nights, where you get to actually wager with me and take exactly what I'm taking, where we've had obviously a ton of success inside the community. So definitely check us out. Like I said, links in the bio. Ritzker Podcast is the promo code for 40% off. Click the bell to subscribe and be notified when we post our podcast every single week. And our podcasts are now live on
iTunes and Spotify. Yeah.
So we need to post those links as well, so that you can subscribe there, so that you can listen in the car and all that other stuff. We want to answer your questions. So huge shout out to our good pal Peter. He's an amazing member of inplayLIVE. He was the one that had the suggestion for today's topic, which was a year in the life of being a sports value analyst, and of course that was more so related to me specifically. So I think it's different for everyone. But if you have any topic ideas, any questions that you want us to answer on our podcast, we would love to hear from you. So you can post that in the comments or contact us, whoever you want to.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week.
Cool. Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Boom.